morning, everybody. Welcome to another Tandem Talk here at the Nonbinarian. We are going to chat today with author of the Gloomy Girl Variety Show, Freda Epum. So this book just came out, published by Feminist Press. We are big fans of Feminist Press here at the Nonbinarian. Very excited about this book. If you haven't read it yet, it's phenomenal. Highly, highly recommend. We're going to give a few minutes for everybody to hop in, wait for Freda to join us. I know that January's been very long for everybody, so I hope that everybody's taking care today. But yeah, while we wait, I'll just talk a little bit about the book. So, Gloomy Girl Variety Show is a memoir. It's actually mixed media, so it features some photography and some art, as well as some different styles of writing by Freda, all incredible. I was lucky enough to read an early copy of it, and it's easily one of the best books that I read last year. If you are interested in memoir, highly recommend. If you are interested in books that uniquely approach pop culture staples that we don't think about very often, highly recommend. Good morning, Kay. Good morning, everybody. I guess it's afternoon on the East Coast, huh? I'm not on the East Coast, and so I forget. So good afternoon if you're joining us from there. And happy time zone to everybody who's not in either of those time zones. Yeah, LOL morning. Exactly. But yeah, so if you haven't picked this up yet, highly recommend. And so here she kind of explores her identity. She also explores the concept of what home means when you are caught between sort of a rock and a hard place in your identity, in your location, in your concept of safety. And she does all of that through, as I mentioned, multimedia explorations. There's writing, there's also a photography series that's really beautiful. And she also explores HGTV's House Hunters, which for me was always a staple. As I was especially in college, I would turn it on as background noise while I was doing something else. And so it was really interesting to see it approached in such a cool framework here. So very exciting. And it looks like Freda just joined. I think you do need to be on your phone to join. You need to be on something with a video. I didn't think about that component. Instagram Live is always an ever-changing beast. Very excited to do this chat. She does have a superb newsletter. Yes, if you're not following, you're totally fine, Freda. Take your time. If you're not subscribed to Freda's Substack, please do. I'm actually going to just pin this comment so that everybody can grab that. Thank you for recommending that. While we're hanging out for a second, does anybody have questions that they're interested in hearing about as we're chatting? If so, I'd be happy to include them in our conversation. I've got a few myself, of course. How am I holding up? I didn't necessarily mean questions for me. I'm all right. I am, I'm all right. I'm here. I'm lucky to have a really great support system. And I am engaging with the news and with social media in small increments in order to maintain my mental health. I think that's the fairest way to frame that. How are you holding up, Kay? How is everyone holding up? If you feel like talking about it in the chat, go for it. If you don't, that's also okay. We're all here and we are all doing our best. I feel like that's truly just the vibe. And January, I always feel like, is one of those months that lasts for 100 years. And I don't know why it does that. Oh, here we go. We've got a request. Hold on. Accept. Oh, we did it. We figured it out. Hello. Welcome in.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry. Instagram is sometimes so difficult when it comes to these things, and it's rude that way. I'm very sorry.
This is my millennial debut author brain coming out where I'm like, how do you get into Instagram Live?
Yeah.
My Chinese niece would tell me otherwise.
Fellow millennial here, and the first time I did one of these, I was like, what am I doing? How do I do it? What buttons do I push? What if I push the wrong button? So I totally understand. But welcome in. Congratulations on your book, which
Thank
is
you.
so beautiful, so phenomenal. So I guess to kick things off, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I
Great.
think, yeah, I'm in a PhD program, so I just started the semester about the same week as my book launch and 9 hours of class the day before. So I'm definitely like running around, but it's nice. It's always nice to talk with other folks about creative work and craft. And I just did a reading last night that was really energizing. So I'm feeling good today. Yeah.
That's great. I
How are
love that.
you doing?
I'm all right. I'm hanging in there. Yeah, we're taking it a day at a time. I'm actually in my master's program, and this is my thesis semester. So I'm in kind of a similar, like, every day is so long.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of nice because it's giving me something to focus on, which I appreciate. So let's talk about your book. So I'm actually, you know what? No, we're gonna do something else first. I think something that's been keeping me going is making sure that there is at least one thing that's just bringing me pure joy in my life. Which today was actually just like hanging out with my cat because she was just really excited to like hang out with me, which is always nice because she doesn't always want to do that. So, what's something in your life that's just bringing you like pure, unadulterated joy right now?
Pure joy. Um, you know, I have been spending a lot of time with my dog, Zoya. She's like blonde-haired pit bull. She's super cute.
Oh,
Her nickname is sometimes Bitey Baby because she becomes cute and then sour very easily. I've also been watching One Tree Hill, uh,
okay. Uh-huh.
which is very like tapping into nostalgia and teenage Freda, and lights of having to be very much an adult these days.
Yeah. Did you watch it as a teenager, like as it was airing?
Yeah,
Yeah. That was one that I was like really, really into. And then at a certain point, I was like, I have to stop. I have to stop watching the show
I
because
did
I feel
stop.
like I'm just watching a
Yeah,
train wreck.
yeah. It got really bad towards me.
Yeah, it got a little rough. Have you listened to the podcast that Sophia and Bethany Joy and Hillary host?
Yeah, I think I listened to like one episode, maybe it was like the first episode, and I'm so bad with podcasts. I am very much like I want to listen to everything, and then I don't listen to everything.
I'm the same way, and I have a hard time processing information auditorially. And so what I'll find is like with podcasts and also sometimes with audiobooks, which I'm trying to get better about, is I will just tune them out. I'll just stop listening at a certain point, and that's not helpful. So actually building off of that a little bit, what is your relationship to reality TV, especially since you explore, House Hunters and like HGTV in your book?
Um, hmm. Well, the book is centered around HGTV. I started from that space because I grew up watching House Hunters with my family.
Mhm.
And yeah, there's always a lot of House Hunters playing every other day. And then as I like started to live on my own, I still continued to watch it, and I watched like a lot of House Hunters International. And I was like always looking for like the black girls on House Hunter International to see where they were trying to go to get out of America. And I really started looking at it as like an escape of like thinking about what your possibilities are and how that ties to like your place of residence, like a feeling of home. Those were things that I was continuously tapping into while I was writing the book.
Mhm.
And I was working with my agent around like the overall structure because it was a lot of disparate pieces when I was going on submission and stuff. And she was like, "Oh, what if we took House Hunters as like the organizational principle for the book?"
Yeah,
So that's how it became kind of like a me as a character on a imaginary house hunt.
I love that. And I thought it was a really unique way for you to kind of explore the concept of home, and what that looks like. So can you talk a little bit about like how your definition of home has potentially changed or grown over time?
It's changed. I've had this question a lot, and I think my answer is kind of always shifting. I think right now, I'm about to turn 31. My birthday's next month, and I've been living in Cincinnati for about almost 6 years now.
Mhm.
So I think my definition is starting to change, and I think at the time that I was writing most of the material in the book, I was searching for a sense of safety, a sense of domesticity, something that was routine, normal, safe. And I think I'm starting to explore home in more of like a diasporic context that
Mhm.
the book also explores, as like home isn't necessarily just where you live or the sense of domesticity you have there, but like the sense of belonging that one might have as like a intersectional person, like all across the world and different communities that might bring you a sense of belonging.
Mhm. I love that. Um, and one of my favorite things about Gloomy Girl is that it's not just, I mean, you mentioned that there were like some disparate pieces, and so there's that sense of like you do have these like much longer sections, then you also have these like very short kind of almost like staccato pieces sort of interspersed throughout, but you also have this really beautiful photography series. So can you talk a little bit about your creative process for not just your writing but also the other kinds of art that you do?
Yeah. Well, the art in Gloomy Girl is art over like a long period of time. I think one of the earliest pieces, like a painting I did in high school. And the photography series throughout is a performance piece that I did for my thesis in undergrad, where I wore like a giant rain cloud head as like a hat, basically, that looks like a poofy rain cloud, and walked around where I was going to school in Northampton, and just let people kind of like take pictures of me as like a provocative piece, like how people would interact with it, what the pictures would signify once they were done. And so I was more of the performance subject, and then my best friend Soul was the photographer for that piece. So it was really fun to be able to collaborate with a friend. And I was really wanting to, as I was keeping working on Gloomy Girl, I started to go back to some of these images because the book was originally just text. There wasn't going to be any images a part of it, really. There was just like one. during the editing process. And then I had a developmental editor mention that, like, this is really interesting. I'd love to see more of this that you're describing, like, visualized. And so I think also having performance art photography, like William Pobell is in the book, and Keith A. Wallace is another performance poet and performance artists that I wanted to see, like, that juxtaposition, like, over time, of how different thinkers are interpreting this same sort of experience of, like a politics around emotion. And so I wanted to be able to capture that in, like, my art and, like, my own evolution as an artist, but also, like, other artists and thinkers as well.
Yeah. I think that's really lovely. And I think it creates a really cool conversation, especially within the context of sort of they're searching for identity and like what feels comfortable for the narrator, like throughout the book. So I think that's really lovely. And I thought it was a really like unique thing about not just the organization, but also like the actual content of the book. So I thought it was really cool. So I'm glad that that developmental editor said, hey, what if we did this? So building off of that a little bit as well, you mentioned some of the other like artists and thinkers that you include here. How did your relationship to different types of media, either through academia or just through like your interest in pop culture, inform your actual writing? Because this thing is rife with references, and so I'm interested in sort of how your relationship to those things impacts the way that you write.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been someone that's like reading like academic theory even when I'm like not in college anymore. And so I'm kind of a nerd in that way. And I've always watched a lot of reality TV in particular, and was part of the whole like age where watching bad movies was like a social activity
Yep.
and things like that. And so I'm just someone that looks at writing as like kind of referencing a lot and thinking about like my life in relation to other things around me as like someone who's introverted and like naturally more observant.
Mm.
And so I think there's like within more academic settings or like theoretical settings, like there's a hierarchy of like this is this philosophy is more important than like this reality show. And I almost like think that what if it's not?
Mhm.
And so I think that what I wanted to try to do with my work is that like Flavor Flav and like Fanon could be talked about in the same sentence.
Yeah.
And what kind of like associations does that make, even for having more of like a popular audience? I think I didn't want this book to only be read by academics. I wanted it to reach a wider audience because I felt like those words were things that people needed that might not have access to these types of institutions. And
Mhm.
so I think it also is like a craft strategy of like making it so your eyes don't glaze over at theory, but because there's like um, MTV's Baggage or something, or MTV's Laguna Beach or something
Mhm.
in relation to it, it makes you reconsider the material a little bit more.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's really cool. And I think that, as somebody who also is pretty involved in academia and also is always very critical of academia as a concept and the way that academia produces people who are very like, and I'm the smartest one in the room and you will can't touch me or talk to me. I agree with you. I think that being able to talk about pop culture and theory within the same kind of paragraph or even sentence can make a huge difference. And also I think it makes both of those things more approachable and more interesting, which I think is cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are you, aside from rewatching One Tree Hill, which Godspeed to you, honestly, um, what are some of the like media things that you're enjoying right now, reality TV or otherwise?
Hmm. Media things.
because like we just watched the latest season of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, which was bananas.
Yeah. I have been watching, I was just in Tucson with my family for about a month, and so there where I got my reality TV show bug. So I was watching a lot of Love is Blind and The Ultimatum, um, lots of like travel food shows that my dad really likes to watch. So I think those themselves even influence me even for being like trash reality TV, and like also reality TV is rife with exploitation.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yep.
but I think like the way that humans interact with each other and like the very humanness of their emotions is something that makes me think about like how do those emotions exist within like the wider worlds? Like why does someone feel this way and feel like they need to air their vulnerabilities on TV? I just am interested in like all of that behind television.
Yeah. Would you ever want to be on reality TV?
Oh God. What would I go on? I think I would do okay on like the Winkest Link, which is
Sure.
the 2000s. No, not for me.
That's fair. Yeah. One of my partners, we always laugh because like she says that her most toxic trait is that she thinks she would win Survivor.
Oh, wow.
And we think she's right.
That sounds like a great friend. I definitely have multiple friends that I think could win
Yeah.
Survivor. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like that's a skill, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to have a really solid amount of social game to be able to do
Yeah.
that. So I mean, your book is out in the world, which again, congratulations. That's so exciting. So I know that, my agent always says that publishing is a marathon, not a sprint, which is something that is difficult for me to remember because I don't have any patience at all, because I'm a Taurus. And so that's just kind of how that goes. But so how has the process of, writing and editing and publishing your memoir and your first book impacted you? For better or for worse?
Yeah. I really liked this question when you sent it as like a for better or for worse type of thing, because I think there is some like I guess performance that one has to do when they're publishing a book as like this amazing culmination of the life of a writer, should be completely happy. And I think there's like I definitely am glowingly happy. There's also like pressures around publishing industry and like the market and like metrics that when I was just writing in my small studio a couple of years ago, I didn't really have to think about. So I think that my middle name ironically means patience.
Okay.
Um, I never thought of myself as a patient person, but I think I have always thought of myself as someone capable of setting a long-term goal and sticking to it. And I think like the writing community I've been able to surround myself in has helped along with like writing, querying, getting the agent process. There's like a lot of work that goes into publishing a book, and I think it sometimes makes me sad that a large percentage of the US doesn't really read books that often, considering how much work goes into the process. Um, but I think for me, on a personal level, the better it has been the biggest, and why I'll always continue to be a writer. It's just there's been like so many little things that have happened over the past few months of just people DMing me on Instagram about how much the book meant to them, about either on a personal level or as a writer and like helping them write their memoir. When I was on my first like book tour stop, there was like a mom and her daughter that were two Black women, saw the cover of the book and were like so excited. And I think like that rush of like seeing that your work can impact someone, like no matter how small the interaction is just like everything that a writer needs to have. I wish everyone could have that.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really beautiful. Um, is there anything that you wish you had done differently?
I wish I had done differently. I think I'm one of those like Pisces that are like everything happens for a reason. But I think I'm also like a very strategic person. So I think if I could do it over again, I might have learned some more business things around like the side of writing and like more how do you reach your readers before your book comes out side of the writing aspect of it. I think I was really focused on like being good at my craft, which I think has paid off a lot
Yeah.
because the book is getting like really good reviews and stuff. I think I also feel like there was a bit of a learning curve from what I didn't learn in like my MFA that I'm now learning like on my own, but has started to spark more of like an entrepreneurial interest in me. But yeah, I guess if I was giving advice to another writer, that's probably what I would give is like learning more about like how you want to reach your readers and like the business of being a writer, those types of things.
Yeah. And somebody already mentioned that you have a superb newsletter, which I agree with. Your newsletter is great. I think that newsletters, I mean, they're always recommended for authors to have, but they can also be a difficult thing to sort of like market and also, maintain like a steady stream of ideas for. So when it comes to producing your newsletter, how do you approach coming up with what you want to write about, how you want to write about it, and like the timing of everything?
Yeah. My newsletter is still pretty early. You'll see I am one of those people that will drop off and then come back. I
Me
think my last
too.
yeah. So I think for my newsletter, I do read a lot of other newsletters and Substacks, and my favorite ones are mostly essayists. I really love Princess Baby Girl and Siba Blay, Faria Rosen. I really love their newsletters. And so I think that's like something that I aspire to, but don't know if I have like the intellectual capacity always to give a really beautiful essay. Um, so I'm wanting to, as I continue to develop my newsletter, like reach out to more community and be able to champion other writers of color, other people doing hybrid work and like disabled and queer writers and possibly do like an interview series that so that their voices can also have a platform too.
Oh, that's a cool idea. I like that. I always love an interview series, especially when it's, one sort of author creative of any kind interviewing another creative, because I think it's so interesting. And the kinds of conversations that you can get into are always very multi-layered, which I think is really
Me
cool.
too. Yeah, I like watching I don't know if you've seen Actors
I
on Actors.
love Actors
Yeah,
on
I'm
Actors.
one
Yeah,
of those.
yeah, it's one of my favorites. So has anything about reader response to Gloomy Girl surprised you?
Surprised me. Um, hmm, I don't know if anything surprised me quite yet. I think something that has been really beautiful is how much people have been able to say that they related to the content in the book, in my
Mm,
experience, even though however filtered, I think people across like many different life experiences and identities and lived experiences have been able to say that they really felt seen. And so I think that's like sometimes the beauty in being like an intersectional person is like relating to a lot of different types of people. And so I hope that like the way that the book is structured and the craft choices make it an approachable book for a lot of different type of people. But I also am always really excited when other like Black and disabled and queer folks tell me that they really appreciated the book because that's what like little Frida was setting out to do about 10 years ago.
yeah. Weird to think of yourself as little 10 years ago when you were still technically an adult,
I
huh?
feel like 20 something is kind of little. Like now that I'm like in my 40s, yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, like mind was still developing.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Like looking back at my early 20s, I'm like, oh, you were going through it, and that's okay. We've learned a lot. So I think for my kind of final question, before we just make sure that nobody in the chat has anything to ask, which if you do have anything in the chat, feel free to pop it either in the little question like circle thing. That's a little dialogue tag. That's what that is. Or just throw a comment in, and we'll do those at the end. But if you can say, aside from your newsletter, and obviously promotion for the Gloomy Girl Variety Show, what are you working on right now?
I am working in a research and thinking way and like mild writing way. But I'm working on a potential new memoir that's more on a reported memoir side, so incorporating other people's interviews and experiences. That's tentatively titled I Dream of Labor. That's been kind of like something that I see online a lot is the I don't dream of labor discourse. And so the title is more ironic in a way of having to dream of labor
Yeah.
as like a marginalized person. And so that's what I'm working on in my PhD right now is doing like more research around digital intimacy for Black women and disabled folks and queer folks as a way of coping with the labors of capitalism. So I'm starting to work on that a little bit more. And I also have a novel that I've been thinking through. That's a multi POV novel about a Nigerian family and healing through intergenerational trauma. So those are my things that are just in the ether, not super concrete right now.
Those both sound very cool, though. Especially the first one. I think that sounds really interesting. I don't dream of labor has almost become like an inside joke with my
Yeah.
partners and I, because it's like anytime that work comes up, it's like I don't dream of labor. Like I don't want to talk about that. Don't talk to me about work right now. Is there anything that I didn't ask you, or is there anything that you'd like to talk about in relationship to your book?
Hmm. I'm not sure if there's anything you didn't ask me. I'm very happy to answer anyone's questions in the chat if they have them.
Yeah, it looks like we have mostly shy folks today, which is totally fine. Sometimes it's like that. We've got one. Okay, we are going to. So from Kay, who's actually our founder, we love Kay. Will we see more of Gloomy Girl Variety Show in upcoming Nonbinarian programming? Because that's technically a question for me. So that was going to be our little sign off. But before we do that, Freda, is there anything that you would like to promote, plug, tell anybody about before we sign off for the day?
Before we sign off, I have an event in Chicago on Thursday, the 30th. It's at 7 p.m. at Call and Response Books. So if you are in Chicago, know any Chicago friends, feel free to invite them. And I'll also be hitting the road to more places. This coming year, I'll be in Tucson for the Tucson Festival of Books. I'll be at AWP. So feel free to say hi to me. And if there's any place that you'd like to host me at, let me know. You can feel free to DM me on Instagram. But thank you. Yeah. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. This was really great. I'm glad that we were able to connect. I'm so excited for you. So excited about your book. I'm glad it's out in the world. I feel like every single time I have the opportunity and privilege to read something early, I feel like I'm like buzzing for it to show up in the world. So I can be like, okay, and now you go read it too.
Yeah.
So we can talk about it. And speaking of other people reading it, Gloomy Girl Variety Show is actually our February book club pick for the Nonbinarian, which is very exciting. So we will actually be, thanks to the fabulous folks over at Feminist Press, doing a giveaway starting on the 1st of February. So we're going to give away a couple of copies to the community. And then we will have our book club meeting on the last Friday in February, which I actually think is maybe the last day of February. Let's find out. Yeah, February 28th. That'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern on Zoom. If you want more information or if you want to sign up for reminders, etc., you can click the link in our bio, and we just ask for your name and email. We don't spam you, I promise. You get like maybe 2 emails from us a month. But yeah, I'm very excited to both revisit this in a book club context and then also talk about it with others. Freda, thank you so much for joining us. This was fantastic. It was lovely to connect with you and meet you. And I hope that you have an excellent rest of your day and an excellent rest of your week.
You too. Have a good
Thank you
day.
so much. Yeah, have a great day, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.